Hey, how's it going? Hope all is fantastic. If not, hope your day goes better. Today we're going to talk about Titanic maritime things that were premonition before the sinking. Let's begin with the stories, shall we? Brutality was written by Morgan Robertson 14 years prior. However, despite being steeped in fiction, the book plot eerily resembles the real disaster of 1912. It tells the story of a luxury ship liner in the world which is called Titan, which sank in the northern Atlantic Ocean following a collision with an iceberg. Morgan Robertson stated that he did not possess any psychic abilities, as the novel was based on the knowledge of shipbuilding, trends, and understanding the dangers of modern ships during that time frame. Yet the similarities are more than a little uncanny, to say the least. After all, both the fictional and real liner was believed to be practically unsinkable. Oh, what they should have known. And they were both the same size at roughly 270 meters long. They were capable of reaching speeds of 20 knots and featured a barely legal number of lifeboats. What's more, they both sank at 400 nautical miles away from Newfoundland, Canada, on April evening. Oh, I love April. It is my wife's birthday. At the course evidence was the first-class passenger on Titanic, who was returning to New York following a trip to Europe to visit her cousins in Paris, France. She traveled alongside a group of sisters, Miss John Murray Brown, Miss Appleton, and Miss Cornell, who became acquainted with Colonel Aperture Grace. When Titanic struck an iceberg, men aboard the sinking ship attempted to reassure the ladies that the vessel was unsinkable. Oh, how they did not know. However, Edith told Colonel Gracie that a fortune teller had once warned her to be aware of water, and she was convinced that the truth was behind the prophecy. Despite the warning, varying accounts stated Edith gave up her seat in a lifeboat for one of her sisters she was traveling with. As her friend had children waiting for her at home, she was unfortunately willing to give up her seat. She was one of the 4 first-class female passengers to die in the disaster, unfortunately. George Washington Vanderbilt II was a prominent member of the Vanderbilt family who was traveling aboard the Titanic, and with his wife as well, who was named Edith. The couple would often travel the world to adorn their home with antiques and carpets, chapel teas, and artwork. Despite their footmen, Edwin Charles Wheeler loading their belongings into the Titanic 2 days prior, as the couple planned to travel in a first-class cabin, they were warned against doing so, stating, "So many things can go wrong with the maiden voyage." The Vanderbilts therefore rebooked onto the Olympia, with Eden choosing to travel aboard the ship with her employer's belongings, and sadly lost his life during the sinking as well. The Hart family was another one. The Hart family was traveling aboard RMS Titanic as second-class passengers, as they were planning to start a new life in Canada. At the time of the maiden voyage, Ava Hart was only 7 years old. Despite being so young, Ava's memories of the tragedy never faded. It was her belief that a premonition by her mother, Esther, saved her life. As she believed deeming a ship unsinkable was facing the face of God. In fact, Esther was so scared of the events that might unfold that she would sleep during the day of remaining vigilant during the nighttime. As she heard a bump in the night, the family had a chance to quickly escape the ship. However, Ava's father, Benjamin, refused to climb into a lifeboat to allow women and children to flee freely. He gave his coat to his wife to keep her warm. Very prominent of a man. Jonathan Shepard served as a junior second assistant engineer according to the Titanic, and reportedly the unsinkable fears were joining the linear of the maiden voyage. However, he had reasons to worry, of course, and he had been involved in a naval collision a year earlier, as he was on board the Olympic in 1911 when she collided with a HMS Hawke, a British warship. His father was interviewed by the Northern Daily Telegraph weeklies after the fateful night and stated his son was down in the dumps prior to the voyage. When he asked his son, "What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of death?" Jonathan replied, "No, I'm not afraid of death, but I don't want to go." He also stated, "My lad did not want to go on the Titanic. He would rather stop on the Olympia." On the fateful evening, Jonathan helped the ship's engineer to rig pumps inside the boiler room, number 5. However, a slip on the Praise access plate led to him breaking his leg. While Frederick Barrett, the lead fireman, and Herbert Harvey, an engineer, helped Jonathan to pump the room, the bulkhead breached and he sadly drowned in the rising water. Henry Wilde was never supposed to serve on the Titanic, as he was originally posted as a chief officer on the Olympia, Titanic's sister ship. However, he was ordered to await instructions at the Southampton for joining the luxury liner on her maiden voyage. He did, however, have some misgivings about the famous ship, as he posted a letter to his sister at the stop of Queenstown, Ireland, which read, "I still don't like this ship. I have a queer feeling about it." When the liner collided with that iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April 14, 1912, Wilde reported worked lifelessly on lifeboats. He also used the gun to prevent people going overboard on lifeboats, which allowed only women and children to escape at the time frame. He was last spotted at attempt to free collapsed A and B lifeboats from the roof of officers' quarters. He died during the sinking and was later discovered. His body was never identified. Despite boarding Titanic at Southampton before it set sail, Alex Mankins heard a voice that heard him he would lose his life if it remained aboard the liner. The 24-year-old was walking along the gangway when a voice in his head warned him not to travel on the vessel. However, when he looked around, there was no one present. Shaken off the warning, he continued walking only to hear it for a second time, and then a third time as well. If that isn't strange enough, I would probably not go on the ship, but we continue. It was then that he decided to abandon the voyage and return to a hometown of Scotland, the young Scot, and received either a second or third class ticket from his grandparents. As he wasted no time for the expensive ticket, his family were less than pleased about his return. However, they were soon relieved his decision when the news broke of the disaster, unfortunately. A 23-year-old John Calvary joined the Titanic at Southampton, as he signed on the vessel to serve either a stoker or boiler room fireman, which offered a salary of $5 per month. Despite being scheduled to complete a return crossing of the Atlantic, he chose to depart on the ship during her stop to Queensland, Ireland, which was his hometown. He stated many weeks later that he chose to leave the ill-fated ship as he experienced a strange foreshadowing of what was about to occur. Despite bold decision, Calvary continued with his maritime career, as he signed onto the work of RMS Meritroa a few months after sinking of the Titanic. Edith Ronsbaugh, also known as Edith Russell, was a 33-year-old first-class passenger who was traveling on the Titanic, often reporting as a fashion for the Paris Eastern Sunday races, which she stated the liner was the most wonderful boat she could think of. She also posted a letter to the Secretary of Queenstown, which read, "I'm going to take very much needed rest on this trip, but I cannot get over my feeling of depression and premonition of trouble. How I wish we're over." After the ship struck an iceberg, Edith managed to escape in Lifeboat 11, with her small toy pig, and its music reportedly provided passengers with such comfort as well. She was safely rescued from Lifeboat 4 hours later and traveled extensively throughout her life, surviving various tornadoes, car accidents, and also other shipwrecks. What a pleasure she might have had as well. William Teasted was an English newspaper editor who was traveling New York via Titanic to address conference of a hall, which was a request of President William Howard Taft. Despite joining the vessel as a first-class passenger, Stead had seemingly predicted the ship's end many years earlier, as he wrote a short piece of fiction called How the Atlantic Mail Steamer Went Down in 1886. It told the story of a liner that had sunk with carrying 916 passengers, It also displayed a horrifying scene of people drowning due to a lack of lifeboats, which he believed could one day become a reality. Unfortunately, it became true. Do you think these people were foreseeing of the future? Do you think angels protected them? Let me know down in the comments. Unfortunately, the ones who died didn't have too much angels unless they lived in the afterlife. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great one. Bye.